What's up, everybody? Ryan here, and I'm super excited to have, it's Anissa, right? I don't want to mispronounce.
That's correct.
Because you're a pro. I want to make sure we're good. Anissa Westfall with Westfall Roofing out of the Tampa area. Top 100 roofing contractor. You're the chief marketing officer. And I know your husband and you have been running together for a while, and I'd love to we have a shortened episode, so strap in. We're going to dive right into some value. So, Anissa, welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great. I've enjoyed getting to know you a little bit in the last year or two, and I hope to continue that even further now. So tell us a quick bio on your time in roofing, what you've done, and let's get into the nitty-gritty after that about marketing and how you guys have grown and scaled your business.
Sure. So it's a generational roofing business, family-owned and operated. My father-in-law started the company in 1989. I worked there in 2012 for a small stint doing everything, right? Managing crews, pulling permits, answering the phone, helping with quoting, you name it. Created our first CRM system out of clipboards and nails in the wall. Yeah, that fun. Yeah, hey, it worked. And then I left there to work at Publix and came back in 2020 after the pandemic. So I've been there ever since. So going on 5 years.
Awesome. And for those who aren't from Florida, who don't know what Publix is like a massive supermarket, a grocery store.
Loved.
It's amazing.
Supermarket.
Everyone loves it.
Yes. Especially if you're not from here, like people are like, they really miss it when they're gone.
For sure. Yeah. I think there's Hy-Vee and Kroger in the Midwest. But Publix is legit. Yeah. It goes up into Georgia, right?
Yes. We are, I still say we, like it's us. 7 states now, I think. They go all the way to Virginia.
Oh, they do?
Kentucky.
Sweet.
Yeah. They're getting there. And
then you were in a Mark's like senior marketing roles in the Publix. So what did you do there? Quick kind of like background on.
Yeah, so I started as a CRM program manager. So I was running things like our baby club and our pet club and digital coupons and things like that. Then I got promoted to manager CRM, and I actually was pivotable in launching their Club Publix loyalty program.
Oh wow!
So that was part of what I did, and then also.
Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you are loving this episode. Hey, if you're a contractor looking to scale and grow your business through sales leadership training and sales coaching and training for your team, then look no further. All you got to do is text us at 945-800-4220. 945-800-4220, okay? Or just go to our website, sellontg.com. Again, if you're a contractor and you want to grow your sales leadership training skills, your sales coaching skills, and you want to grow and help your sales reps get better, we can help commercial companies, we help residential companies, no matter what trade you're in, you just want to transform your business, okay? Come to STG. We hope to see you there. Hey, now back to the episode.
Well, eventually we launched Instacart with Publix in 2014. So I was on that team, and, at the time, Instacart was like, what? Now it's a household name after the pandemic. Wow. So I remember going to San Francisco there. It was just a little startup app, and Publix was one of the first big major grocery chains. And they actually signed an NDA with us and then broke that agreement because Kroger, they got on board with Kroger later on. Wow. Yeah, early adopter. Yeah. It was cool, though. I remember telling the vice president of Publix at the time, like, this is a game changer. And he had been there for like 45 years, and he was like, oh, and he said people are going to always want to pick their produce. I think it's just going to be a small percentage, and lo and behold.
Super fun.
Household name.
So Westfall Roofing is, you guys, I would love to hear like what you've done when you've come into the role. You've been in leadership, you work with your husband, so you're obviously really close to him who runs the business, and you run together. What has been some of the body of work that you've come back full-time and how that's affected the revenue even? And I want to say you guys are somewhere the top 64 a couple of years ago. So you're doing, 30, 40 million, something like that, which is significant. Maybe it's more.
At least 60 last year, and then probably projected to hit 80 this year, depending on Hurricane Sue.
Wow, that's awesome. So what has your body of work looked like to bring, to see that kind of growth?
Yeah, I think I brought a level of professionalism, right? The isms, right, if you will, like the circle backs and the conference, right? Some of those things I think in corporate America we kind of take for granted, but right when you're starting a mom and pop, you just kind of do it the way the owner does it. And then over time, you have to scale and become more professional, and you have syncs and you have, manager meetings and all these things. So first thing I did is like sort of implemented more protocol, if you will, into the organization. So there was a little bit more teamwork and, meeting and collaboration. So I know that sounds simple, but right, it just kind of started there with just being a little bit more professional, implementing certain things, right? Then I started with the website. So rebuilt the website. We worked with Art Unlimited on that.
Yeah.
Shout out to Anna. So that was in 2021. So that was my first major project. At the time, I had just had a baby, so I was still kind of part-time mom, part-time working. And then just slowly over time, I began to just sort of influence more and more aspects of the business. So meaning I got involved with HR because now I kind of believe that marketing and HR are sort of, especially in a service business, right? Go hand in hand because your people are your product. But slowly started getting into just the internal culture, right? So I wrote a mission statement, I wrote a vision statement, and then I started to promote that within, started doing community work, right? Getting involved with Habitat and other things, and then starting encouraging our employees to do so. So we help foster kids in the Christmas time and backpack, for back to school. And so it's amazing, the old analogy, fake it till you make it, but it's kind of true, right? It's kind of like believe it until you become it, right? So it's like, once you start saying, hey, this is who we are, and our vision statement is to become Florida's most admired roofer. And we specifically picked the word admired, right? Because we didn't want to be biggest and baddest. We wanted to be admired. There was that notion that you're going to be known, obviously, but to be admired, right? That stands out in a different way. So I started infusing that vibe, that culture, that, right into our employees. And, over time, becomes like a place where people are like, this is great. This is a great place to work. And so when I wrote that vision statement, I remember thinking to myself, I know that I'm going to have to solidify that word admiration through different credentials, through different action that we're taking, right? And one of the things I had my eyes set on was to become a best places to work. And I'm so proud. We just got it. So the Tampa Bay Business Journal this year, we became one of the best places to work in the extra large category. So we got to do Raymond James Stadium where the Bucks play. They had this whole like outdoor picnic, and we got to go on a pirate ship, and employees were there. But that was 3 years in the making, right? That was 3 years from when I wrote that vision statement to say, we really have to lend credibility to that word admiration, and that starts with our employees.
That's amazing. And so it sounds like you have really just transformed the culture from more the inside out.
Yes.
But how does that actually correlate to revenue growth, though? Like, because to me, it sounds like a lot of, and I'm very much this way, but a lot of feel good, a lot of sounds good. But how did that turn into change and results and performance to help you guys grow? And has that been your marketing strategy, or has that been combined that with more? Has it been like a lot of diverse channels of marketing? Has it been? So I'm just kind of curious, like how that has actually turned into like the revenue growth you've experienced.
Yes, I mean, so the traditional academia marketing is product, price, promotion, and distribution. I start with our product, right? Our product is a roof. It's the people installing it. It's the processes that you do to get that roof installed. So that's why it was so important as a marketer to start inside, right? We don't build a widget. If it was a widget, it'd be different. I would take a different approach. But it was so vital that our employees are happy and enjoy where they're working. And I mean, specifically to how that ties with revenue growth, right, is there was another roofing company, won't mention names, but they had sort of a mass exodus of salesmen at one point. And guess whose phone rang because they heard we were such a great company to work for. So that equated to higher job recruiting. It equated to higher quality of employees wanting to work for us. And it created this catalyst for salesmen to kind of want to come. Like we're like the go-to contractor to go work for. So, and also the feel goods don't necessarily mean in the back end we're not busting our ass and and we're not like hard on ourselves and working every day and all the things, right? We're kind of doing both at the same time. But like I said, if you believe it, you become it, right? So you keep believing that you're this great, company and you're doing the right things, right? And eventually it starts to stick, eventually starts to have a reputation, right? Couple that with making our customers happy. You start building that repertoire of customer satisfaction. You got employee satisfaction. And next thing you know, right, it's just this inertia of the perfect storm coming together and driving sales, right? I mean, unfortunately, there's no magic bullet, right? It really isn't. It's hard work every single day, years and years and years and years. And then one day, all of a sudden, you look back and go, oh, wow, that caught fire. That did it,
I love that. I'd love to hear more about the sales part of your business. And you guys, I would imagine, and I just from what I know, you're probably more of an appointment-based company. So you're not like, hey, this is a hurricane hit, let's go knock every door. Yeah. It's not that. You guys are brand, local, trusted, admired. Yes. Not that that doesn't work, but in Florida, it's just a different. So that said, describe like when you started to see the type of salespeople. Like describe the salespeople you have at Westfall. What are they like? Who leads them? What's the culture like on the sales side? Because they have such a platform to sell from, right? That increases their confidence. There's great digital brand presence, but you're talking about the individuals. Right. And we talk about the term sales athlete a lot. We use that term, that phraseology, but it's like isolating that human, that person. What are they like? What are the salespeople like? Tell some stories of the type of people you've attracted, because that's obviously helps set you apart. Yeah.
I mean, our sales guys, like through and through, right? They are managed to the T as far as KPIs go, right? Mm-hmm. We're constantly looking at the conversions, constantly looking at all kinds of things. We do have a manager. So my husband was the first salesman, right? Mm-hmm. So my father-in-law is a contractor by nature. Like he could touch a house and diagnose what's wrong with it, right? Mm-hmm. But not so much the business and sales aspect. So that's where Ryan came on board and really complemented. Mm-hmm. So we had that expertise in production, and then he added that value into sales. And he's the ultimate sales guy because he will sit in somebody's house and let them talk for 3 hours, and he won't even, right? I mean, he's that guy where he just is so people and personable. They like him and trust him, and that's, obviously almost everything in sales. But over time, obviously we had to scale. So he hired one of his, we had a really great salesman who left to move to Vegas and work with OC and Doors. Oh, no. Yeah, he was one of our first really great sales managers. Shout out to Steve. But he left there, and so then that gave the opportunity for Justin Young, who became our director of sales. And that wasn't easy because at first I like to say our guys are divas, meaning they don't really have to lift a finger. I mean, I provide them leads every single day, perfect, beautiful leads. And they don't really have to go out and get their own. So, during the transitional periods in sales, it was rough because, right, they were used to one way and now here's somebody else. But I know Ryan has really tried to keep that level of professionalism in the sales department. So, we're quick to hire, quick to fire, kind of, if you will, right? If you're not cutting it, I mean, we kind of like to feel like we're like the all-stars of sales teams, and like, if your conversion's not at a certain rate or what, you're not cutting it. And so, I think there's a lot to be said about, right? There's the pro athletes in sales, and then there's the ones that are trying, but maybe they're not really cut out. And so we typically will stick to the Michael Jordans, if you will, right? But these guys are salesmen through and through, right? I mean, they can sell ice to an Eskimo. I mean, I've got one guy, our number one sales guy, he came from car sales. I mean, and this guy literally you can sell roofs to anybody. It's amazing. How
are they compensated? Through like a base and then a commission, or is it straight commission?
So in the first 6 months of employment, we'll typically do maybe like a little draw or something like that. But no, they're 100% commission after a while.
So not only are they like, they're not generating, they're not making more money, but because they're being generated by the company's efforts,
right?
You guys will, just have a shorter leash. You'll start to like, how does that look? Like, let's just be, if you're attracting higher than average company talent than most companies, if you bring them on, how long do you guys really know until it's time to let them go? What's the typical turnover? And it's expected, but that's good for the culture because it also sends a strong message to the existing team that like, yo, we're the winners here, and like, you're not producing, like you're next, you could be next.
Yeah, we like to be
what's
Super Bowl,
that? What's that
Super
like?
Bowl team, right? I mean, sometimes you think you're hiring somebody who's great, talks a lot of game, they're great salesmen, right? So sometimes they're really great in interviews, and then get out in front of a homeowner and they just don't cut it. Sometimes it's within a month. I mean, some depends, and I think there's just the different varieties of people, and some people stick better with others, and especially in Florida, you've got a lot of older folks, homeowners in general, their average age is 54 years old, right? So you've got to have folks that can relate to that type of customer, someone who also believes in our mission too, right? Like, yes, they're great salesmen, but we also ensure that we're not shysters, right? So they may have had shyster tendencies in the past, but we're like, hey, do this. We like this aspect of your skills, right? But don't do this, right? Because we really want to be known for integrity and ethics. So it's a balance, I guess, if you will. But
how many salespeople do you have full time now?
I think we're close to 25 or 30. It's sometimes hard for me to keep up.
And it's one manager on all those, or do you have like a structure of coaching and support, or how's that?
And that's evolving over time. So our director of sales, Justin, actually just got promoted to GM. So now he's kind of handling a little bit more of the production side. And then Eric Dawson now is our director of sales. And all these guys are groomed from the beginning. Eric... That's the one good thing. Like, Ryan has a really good knack for finding talent. A lot of like the former Steve guy that I was telling you about, he came to our house to try to sell us windows, and Ryan's like, hey, you need a job. Justin was Outback and he was just a waiter, and Ryan's like, hey, you need a job. So he's really good at picking out talent, right? Like just plucking raw talent out of sometimes nowhere. And then, like Justin, for example, I mean, he's been with us for 10 years. So it's like we really believe in internal development, especially, for those that are not faint of heart, because this is not easy, right? None of this is easy. Running a business with customers that are, spending tens of thousands of dollars on something that's not sexy as a car, right? I mean, there's a lot. And so, I think within that sales department, though, there's really good camaraderie too. Like we have weekly meetings with them. There's daily touch bases. I mean, they have so much support at their fingertips. Plus they have a lot of luxury and free time, right? And so, I mean, if you're doing your job and you're selling it, you're killing it. I mean, you have a pretty good career, right? I mean, you're making six figures and you're kind of going home and making your schedule when you want to, sort of thing. I mean, it's pretty lucrative for these folks. And so once they get it, they get it. It becomes like just amazing to see. So
are you guys on Salesforce?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Salesforce i360, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, I know those guys. That's the it's like built on Salesforce. I know that one. Okay.
It is. However, we were butting up against a lot of limitations with that i360. So we actually hired an Salesforce admin full-time. He's our director of CRM, and he used to work at i360. Again, Ryan and his recruiting efforts. So he used to work there, so he knows Salesforce inside and out, but he's also now transitioning to Lightning, so Salesforce Lightning. So that we can have like more robust, programming or whatnot than i360. Yeah.
So are you guys set up for a one-call close? Or are you guys set up for more of a two-step close? What's your sales process like now? Like, you generating leads? Is there any video work that they get sent? Are they scheduled for them? And then are they scheduling their own meetings? I'm just curious, like the ins and outs of that.
Yeah. So we have an entire customer care team that's scheduling all day. There's probably 7 or 8 of them. Like
inside sales or call center.
Call center. We're more of like a call center, if you will. They're not making commission for appointments scheduled. So, through our CRM, we have leads that funnel in, and we work our call queues, right? So there'll be outbound calls to try to schedule appointments. And then we get a lot of inbound calls, roughly.
So you're saying like a digital form, they'll outbound those, and then there's call-ins that they'll answer. Okay.
Right. So they're scheduling inbound calls and they're scheduling outbound calls, like Angie, for example, or outbound. So we call them working the queues. So there's a call queue, right? So the 0 to 3 days and 3 to 10 days. So they work those call queues in addition to answering the phone. And so typically we're about, a few days out to a week, depending on the time of year. The salesmen typically have 1 or 2 appointments a day, and we believe in that full, like, sit down with the homeowner, both homeowners present, 2 hours. We go through the whole spiel. And, we try not to do it virtual if we can avoid it. So we're really that, like, sit down with the customer, build those relationships, build that long-term rapport kind of thing. And then we have a bit of a rehash program, and we're working on that even more deeply this year, to incorporate, some follow-ups and things like that. We got a lot of great advice from that one guy I was telling you about, that car salesman. He used to run the car management, and so he did all kinds of tips and tricks. So that's basically it. I mean, it's
primarily the call center will ensure both homeowners or parties are present.
Right.
And then the sales rep is able to meet with both homeowners and do come up with an estimate all on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what tools are you guys using for that?
So, it's funny. Back in 2010 or so, right? Ryan was like ahead of his game. Like, we had Adobe and iPads, and we were doing digital signatures and digital contracts back then, right? So we were way ahead of the game. Then we got involved in i360 with our CRM, and we were, again, ahead of the game. And then this past, since COVID, really past 5 years, there's all these off-the-shelf CRMs now, all these, roofing services, AccuLinks, Nimbula, all the things, right? And so it's kind of we're becoming technically obsolete now, just these few short years. So we're trying to, reinvent ourselves in the digital space, the technical space, right? So last year we had, it's not so secret anymore, a little internal thing called Operation Python. We were trying to squeeze the competition. Right. So, and that whole Operation Python was an attempt to look at all of our systems and infrastructure, what we can upgrade, what we can get rid of. So we're actually in the middle of all that. So we're changing our accounting software. We're changing our CSF software. We're changing our going from Podium to maybe some of that, right? So we're basically looking at all of that. And then we have now our director of CRM who's, involved in the Salesforce in the back end, making sure it all plugs in and connects. So I'm hoping, this time next year I can share the advancements that we've been working towards.
So at this point, though, will they have gone on a roof and themselves and measure everything manually, and then go to their car, and then generate like a hover or a sumo quote? What are you guys using in that?
It's just we're still using our flattened PDFs. Okay. We have a contract that's been vetted for years and years and years.
Got it.
We use pictometry when
to get the measurement, so they're able to measure and come up with your OC. You guys are heavy OC and some GAF and the certainty, but OC is your main one.
OC is the main.
So then you sell your
duration,
whatever. Okay.
Primarily duration OC. Yeah. Back in the day when we first started, we were GAF, but switched over to OC and pretty committed there.
Yeah, I can see that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's about 75% of our business is shingle. About another 7 to 8% is metal, and then another 7 to 8% tile. We like tile, actually.
Tile's great, right?
Yeah, tile's great because
there's just not as much over here. South Florida, there's tons where I'm from originally, Boca, Fort Lauderdale. Yeah. There's a lot of that
along the coast. You'll see a lot more tile, and near saltwater. Tiles are divas. That's the one thing about tile. They're gorgeous, but they need maintenance. They need work. But we like that as contractors.
And speaking of the maintenance, do you guys do repairs? Sell a lot of repairs? How's that work?
We do. We actually have an entire service department so that handles repairs and post-service needs where, for example, with your labor warranty, if you've got a issue with your roof that we just reinstalled, most roofers will get the crew back, when they can in between installs to go back and fix it, right? We have a whole dedicated department just for,
So does the salespeople sell service there? Or do they?
No, not up front. But we have a whole back end, work order, change order kind of thing where we do incentivize our field supervisors. And then we also have, last year we launched a gutter division. So gutter, soffit, and fascia. So sometimes our guys will sell that up front. Sometimes we'll sell it afterwards. We never want to lose a sale for the sake of add-ons, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow. So primarily they're selling, the leads coming in, you're trying to sell a roof.
Yes,
primarily.
Primarily.
And then after you sell a roof, you have service to help with that, but you're not
Yes.
leading with like, oh, this should only be repaired.
Yes.
They're trying to sell the roof pretty much.
A lot of times you can be sticker shocked, right? So if you add on those gutters, if you add on the soffit, if you add on, all of the stucco work, right? It's overwhelming price in the beginning. So I think sometimes, right, they'll just say, hey, okay, here's the price for the replacement.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times too, once you start opening the roof, you don't know how bad the wood is, or if
Do you guys do like a lot of financing?
We do quite a bit. Yeah. Not a ton, but I mean, yeah, we do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So Operation Python, that's exciting. That's amazing. So where's so you guys have really, you know who you are. You've seen that transform from the inside out. You've attracted really great players. You have high standards of KPIs. If they don't hit that, then because you have such a you have leads and you have a great culture, so you're like, we don't need you kind of thing. And not in not an arrogant way, but it's like we are able to find good people. Our system works. Yeah. It's like we just need someone who can perform because we have big growth goals and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what are some of the so you added gutters? What's the vision? Where are you guys hoping to take Westfall and continue to go?
Florida's most admired roofing company, right? So last year we attempted a pretty big geographic expansion. So originally Tampa, and around Hurricane Ian, so this was 2021 or 2-ish, we started headed down south a little bit more towards Sarasota, Bradenton. Kind of had one guy down there, a lone wolf, if you will, salesman. Was doing great, was doing fine. But after Ian is when we kind of, put a lot more pressure down in the southwest area. So the Naples, Fort Myers, Inglewood area after Hurricane Ian. That was an interesting experiment because we tried doing the whole quote unquote storm chaser thing, right? Not really, but we just had a bunch of guys down there in an Airbnb for, 3 or 4 months and, just trying to help with recovery efforts. But there were so many contractors that came in for that hurricane in particular. We were all pretty astounded how quickly it dried up as far as business. Like I think last year, Sarasota was down 30% in roofing overall. So we're learning a lot from these major hurricanes recently, how much devastation they can create, but then how quickly it gets cleaned up. And last year we had 2 back-to-back hurricanes, almost direct hit to Tampa, Milton and the other hurricane name crossed my mind. Anyways, and just to give you an example, so typically we do about 600 to 800 phone calls a week. The day after Hurricane Milton, we had 1,100 phone calls just one day, right? So it becomes this pressure cooker where I've got employees that don't even have homes, right? And you've got 1,100 phone calls like the minute the hurricane is gone.
Wow.
So last year we were on this geographic expansion going southwest in Orlando, and we actually launched a branch in Orlando, and then all of our attention had to shift back to Tampa. So then I had my Orlando guys in an Airbnb in Tampa, right?
Wow.
Trying to. So it's an interesting business here in Florida, right? Because as much as we like to plan and prepare, then all of a sudden a massive cat, whatever, comes rolling through Central Florida, and now all of a sudden the plans that you had are changed. I mean, it's really so. We write business strategy. It's just it's really hard to kind of. So last year our strategy is we're growing geographically. Then the hurricanes hit and we completely retracted. So now we're like, okay, so we're back to normal as far as leads go.
Yeah.
And now let's get back to give Orlando some attention and go back to growing. So, but now it's June 1st and hurricane season starts.
Yeah, it'll be here in like a month.
And it's here. So,
yeah,
so that's the crazy business we're in Florida, particularly.
So in terms of like, the term greenfield, I'm thinking of a lot. Like, so would you guys be like, hey, we know how to do Orlando, so we're gonna start marketing. So we'll start running ads. You'll start just boom, pressing the gas, and then having salespeople respond. And
I'd love to speak to this because, in the Tampa market for us, because we're so established, it's easy to get a lead, right? I can kind of run a quick ad and we're getting a lead, and then my guys will walk in, and because of our brand, right, like their conversion is going to be higher most likely, right? It's just easy. And so trying to replicate that in another market, I thought at the beginning, oh, this is easy. I know how to make the phone ring, right? What I'm learning now is that barrier to entry on the digital space, particularly Google and all these other digital landscapes. What I'm paying for in Tampa, I'm paying triple the price for a lead, and my conversion's lower in Orlando. And I started doing this back in June of last year. So here we are a year into beginning stages of trying to grow into a different market. And I'm still not even close to where we're at in Tampa.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think with AI, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse for new businesses or even new companies trying to enter new markets.
Why do you say that?
Because the barrier of entry, right? So Google has such incredible weight, their algorithms weight on established 10-year business, right? So you got, I know in Orlando, I'm up against Janie and Collis, right? Like those guys, they're the Westfall of Tampa, right? So it's like, you got to go beat the Westfall of Tampa. Well, I know the Westfall in Tampa, she's working her ass off every single day to make sure I'm still top of, right? I'm defending myself here. Over here, it's offense.
Yeah.
And they're playing defense, right? Yeah. And Google definitely gives the weight to those established companies.
Can you see it like being worthwhile to try to be more, to do the organic game and not the paid? Is it worth it? Is it just like too slow? It doesn't work? Like, how does that, where does your mind go with?
You got to do both. You got to do both at the same time, because at the end of the day, I got to keep these salesmen fed. At the end of the day, I need 2 to 3 leads per salesman every single day. And you do the math, right? If my lead to appointment conversion is in Orlando, let's say 20%, 25%, right? I can back and do the math and say, okay, I'm going to need 200 leads for you to generate 1 sale, right? Whatever for the time period. Whereas I could generate 200 leads in Tampa and have 5 sales, right? So that's the trade-off you make, right? You kind of hedge your bets in case, a hurricane happens in Tampa and becomes dried up in a year like Sarasota, right? But here you are spending the triple the amount of money and all the things to try to do what these others are already established to doing. So that was a big lesson for me on the Google side, right? And just all the whole thing. And even Angie now, their algorithms are including sort of some of that Google digital landscape. So
I've heard of the whole phrase around like, just the underserved markets. I know there's a lot of little towns in Florida too. Like there's a lot of little ones. And like, have you ever tried that yet? I'm just curious. Like, hey, let's go, instead of going to Orlando, let's go to Ocala. Or let's try something a little smaller, where it's like a little cheaper, a little harder. Yeah,
after Hurricane Idalia in Ocala, there was another hurricane that hit in the Ocala area. And so we tried chasing it kind of after that. And we did some business, sure, but we learned in these small areas, it's more chuck in a truck. We're too expensive, right? So, we set that value prop, right? And we're not going to be the cheapest ones. But I think the more rural you get, the more DIY, the more chucks in a truck you get. And a lot of our sticker shocked by our price.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like the expansion's not easy.
No.
Sounds like it's a hard thing.
It really is. And I didn't think it would be this hard. I really didn't. I'm 20 years in marketing, and I thought, I can make the phone ring.
So I'd have to be, as I'm entering into your mind, which is brilliant, by the way. You're amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Are you just like, man, how do we get cheaper leads, or how do I find, like, and I guess, I know we're wrapping up have to finish up soon. So what are the most amazing ways you guys have found to generate leads and that convert the most affordably, the most profitably? You guys have organic, you have your, I'm sure you have, people can find you on Google. That's organic. You have, I'm sure there's some social, there's brands and trucks, there's word of mouth.
Yeah.
What have you implemented proactively that seems to be producing the most that you can measure?
I'm going to give you an interesting one because, Google by far is our number one best source for leads. Angie is our highest volume source for leads.
Like the most leads or the most sales from that lead source?
Number of leads, but not the highest conversion.
Okay.
Google's right behind it as far as volume, but much higher conversion.
Okay.
I'd say the one that not surprised me, but I think surprised Ryan, was TV.
Oh, wow.
A couple years ago, I asked, let's do it. And he's like, I don't know, all the things. And I kind of had to sell him. And it took a little while, took a couple months before it started kind of really gaining inertia. And I never expected it to drive leads per se, right? I always expected it to just help brand and help awareness. But in fact, it drives leads. And the most interesting part that I think we discovered was once we launched TV, all my other channel conversions started going up, right?
Oh, cool.
So even if they found us on Angie or we solicited them through Angie, all of a sudden we're walking in their door and they're like, oh yeah, I've kind of heard you, or I think I've seen you on TV.
You guys have like a Westfall jingle?
No, we don't. I actually met with a guy that is like a big jingle guy, and he sent me a jingle, and it was so bad. I'm like, dude, I can't. Like, it's just, no. I really want a jingle, but I haven't gotten one yet. Yeah.
Who's on the TV? Is it Ryan?
So it's Ryan. Yeah. Ryan's on TV, and that's been working extremely well because it's funny. What I had him do is I had him meet with my videographer, and I had a bunch of set questions to answer, and then he answered them, did the interview, and then I was looking at the shots, and I was like, no, I hate all of these. So I went and basically what I did was just like you and me, and I was just like, I just interviewed him and just talk. And then we took all these clips from just some of these snippets and then created just like 4 or 5 concepts. So yeah. And I think that really resonates well because I can't tell you how many customers are like, oh yeah, I mean, I see Ryan every day, and he just seems like somebody I could trust.
That's
and
cool.
Or when they get upset, I want to talk to Ryan right away. Like they think, like he's just, and I think that's I kind of preach that a little bit to other contractors, right? Like you got to stand out somehow, and in a service business where it's kind of a commodity, anybody can kind of put on a roof, right? How do you differentiate yourself?
Yeah, I feel like you say that. I picked up that from you a lot is how do you stand out?
How do you stand
out? I really
out?
like, I feel, I'm like, I think that's,
yeah.
Is it a core value of yours already?
I think
it's come out a lot. Like in
core value in marketing, period. Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, in marketing, it's like AIDA is the process in which, consumers kind of go through attention, interest, desire, and action. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of, especially if you're like a roofing contractor, you're a contractor, not a marketer, right? People kind of forget that you have to get their attention first, right? They kind of go straight into, well, here's what we offer, call me. So that's the piece I think when I say stand out is think about your viewing habits on social media or, whatever. I mean, how much information you're receiving on a daily basis, right? And sometimes like even with Facebook posts, I'll share them with the team and they'll be like nitpicking every single, I'm like, guys, it's literally scroll. That's how much attention you're getting, right? Like nobody's paying attention to this, right? Like, or it's not as important as you think it is.
You guys do YouTube?
We do.
Does it produce?
It does. Pretty robust. Starting to get more traction on videos. Not that long, so only about a year. But like one of my spots has like 32,000 views. I thought that was pretty cool. Another one's like 40,000 views.
Good.
And also recently we just started incenting our field supervisors to take a video with the customer.
Nice.
So we have a whole playlist on happy customer testimonials, and now I'm starting to use that in some of my ads, and it's killing it.
Really?
Yeah, it's killing it. So
beautiful,
right? So it's like people want to see people. So people of customers, right, saying how great we are. Ryan saying, "Hey, look, I'm the contractor. I'm right here. I'm transparent. You can trust us." Those are the kind of things I think that's sticking out versus here's a roof and we do flat metal tile before and after, or hail damage, ? Right? It's all the same stuff. So it's like, how do you stand out in that field? In that field of brown cow? People.
People. Yeah, field of brown cow. So maybe the purple cow.
The purple cow, yeah.
Sweet. So and do your sales reps or your superintendents do the reviews?
Everybody is sort of encouraged, incented to do reviews.
Incentivized. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And you have a referral program too? What's that like?
Well, we had a robust referral program for years and years and years, and then the hurricanes hit, and I shut it down, and I haven't started to back up. Well, because I had one neighbor referring their whole neighborhood.
Isn't that good though?
No, because it was a hurricane that caused damage, not the referral, right? I mean, right? So it's like I didn't want to spend,
You were paying.
I was paying people to say, "Oh, my whole neighborhood needs a."
Was the cost per referral higher than your typical other costs, or was
at the time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Google was so cheap because demand was so high.
Yeah.
Spending maybe $30-$50 a lead, which is unheard of.
It's crazy good.
Right, and now it's back to like 100 and something, which is still crazy good because Orlando met 300, right? But yeah, I haven't really turned it back on. It also, that is like one of the last processes that we haven't automated in our Salesforce. So there's like that legacy spreadsheet, and I'm going in, right? It's cumbersome to manage right now. But we did partner with G4 Marketing 3 or 4 years ago. So we did the G4 package cookies and all that stuff to customers.
It's like a done for you, right? They do a done for you.
Yeah, they do. So in the beginning, we had a whole referral appreciation as part of that, where they'd get $50 for a lead and then $50 if we closed the deal. As you can imagine, that was all manually managed. So it's kind of a nightmare. So we got rid of the 50 and 50. So let's just stick to $100 for a referral. And then the hurricanes hit, haven't shut it back on. If a customer says, hey, I referred somebody, don't you have a program? We'll honor it, of course, but I'm not out there actively promoting it.
Okay, I am taking more time than you've committed to giving me, so I want to wrap up. So, just love talking to like a professional marketer. There's not many CMOs out there.
Yeah, in the roofing space.
No, that's amazing. What would you say? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more I can ask you, but
nice. So much.
Yeah, so what would you just say to some listeners out here who admire what you're doing, and what would you say to them, just to kind of some parting thoughts, if you were to give them 10 seconds of wisdom that you haven't shared already?
I mean, first and foremost, know yourself. Know what you add, know what value you bring to the table, and then define that. Has to define that, and then promote that internally, because we are a service industry, right? The first thing you have to do is, who are we? Why are we good? And make sure our employees understand and know that, right? First thing. Because from there, then you build your brand, you build your positioning, right? There's two main objectives, I say, as a marketer in this space. I have two main objectives. One, make the phone ring. And two, price permission. First, as a young contractor, you always need to make the phone ring first, right? So those are going to be your Google Spaces, your lead programs, like anything to grab and get leads, right? Google, if you're a new contractor, you need to read up everything that Google's doing, everything they tell you to do, right? I mean, their grip on, market share and search engines are just kind of, vastly different, like 90% compared to everybody else, right? And so definitely understand Google. You got to play around in social media, because that's where people are discovering you and they're kind of figuring out your brand, right? Because our purchase cycle is so big, right? Every 20 years, somebody needs a roof or so. So much has changed since the last time they got a roof, right? So there's a huge amount of educating you have to do, huge amount, right? And so that's, to me, that's the space where you're just constantly educating, becoming that expert, showing your expertise. And then, right, the price permission piece is sort of that other half, right? So you think about shoes, right? Nike, right? You're gonna buy a white tennis shoe for $20 and you put a check on it, and all of a sudden it's $100, right? That's price permission, right? That is the goal for every company, is to get to a point where I can charge for my value, right? You've already made the phone ring. You've already established who you are. Everybody inside lives it, bleeds it, right? And so it exudes on your service and your product, right? After that is when you start growing your awareness, but really start growing that price permission.
Wow. It's like, I love that. Everyone's giving you permission to charge that because they know the value, and you've proven it over and over and over again, and it's real.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, you're pretty active on primarily LinkedIn, right?
All the social.
All the socials.
All the socials.
Look up Anissa Westfall.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing. It's been great to have you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's it.
Great.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.